Okay, Shane, what's going on, brother?
Oh, nothing. It's a Monday. I'm happy to be here.
Dude, I'm glad to have you. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, me too. I can't wait.
I'm gonna ask you all the fucking weird things.
Go right ahead.
First, I just want to say thanks for joining us.
I love you guys. You guys are awesome.
We love you too, brother. I've taken like a bit of a hiatus from the podcast for a while because Danielle was out of town. We had a lot going on. So you will be our first podcast back. So we appreciate that.
Well,
man.
let's get it started with a bang, I guess.
Sir. How about let's get it started with a boolah?
Okay.
Awesome. Boolah, dude. You don't have to drink the whole thing at once.
No.
So how's your move going?
I'm done. So
You're done?
Yeah, I'm
You're
all
out
settled
and you're in.
Kind of like a little nostalgic coming back here, just driving through the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that I had a good reason to come down here today. And
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. You've lived in this area for a long time?
I lived here in Palm Beach for the last year or so, a little bit over a year.
Okay.
And I grew up in Stewart. And my last house was in Hope Sound, and I sold that in the middle of a lovely divorce.
Hope Sound is beautiful.
Yeah, it was nice.
Sorry about the divorce, or congratulations, either way you look at that.
I don't wish it on anybody, but
Yeah,
whatever,
it's tough either way, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad lives up there in Hope Sound off, what's that, Gomez? Like Bridge and Gomez?
Great, yeah. I lived in
gorgeous
Lost
up
Lake,
there. Okay.
so big-time golfer, so I loved being up there to do that.
You're pretty good at golf?
Yeah, decent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm fucking terrible.
I could help you in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah.
My brother-in-law said the same thing. My brother-in-law, Danielle's brother, Bruce, is fucking... He's good at everything he does, but golf specifically, he just crushes it. He crushes his drives. His short game is on point. First time I played with him, he took me to Palm Beach Par 3.
Oh, okay. That's a good spot.
That's a beautiful course.
Yes.
But you have to be, like, pretty good with your short game. Because I was hitting the ball into other people's holes.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, dude. It was a nightmare. Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I usually like to start this with a very simple.
Okay.
Who are you?
All right.
And what do you do?
All right. I'm Shane Ahern. My current job is with the Federal Aviation Administration. I'm hoping my mic is treating you okay.
This is
here.
excellent. You're perfect.
Of course, I've been on the radio a lot, but talking to airplanes back in the day.
Yeah.
So as air traffic control, we, separate and organize and expedite the flow of air traffic and make sure you're safe when you're flying and make sure the general public's safe on the ground. And just a little bit of background with it if you want me to go into it.
Yeah,
I've been
dive
working
in.
since I worked for FAA since 1998. So I'm getting towards the end of service for me with that. I did work on September 11th. It's been a very rewarding career for me, and it's brought a lot of nice people into my life. So I'm really happy I got to do it.
Yeah, so you work for the federal government. That's a federal job, right?
Yes, yeah.
And my only understanding of air traffic control is from, which everybody probably tells you this, is from Pushing Tin.
Yes.
The movie with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
Great film.
It is a good film.
What really is depicted in that is the stress level of what you do.
I think so, and I think the other truth with that movie is that everybody cheats on each other. No, I'm just kidding. So,
It's a lot of office politics.
Yeah. So it is office politics. There's a lot of it's kind of an ego game depending how you take the job.
Yeah.
Good movie though. I was glad it came out. I mean, I'm kind of consider myself lucky that a lot of entertainment mediums have made my job into movies.
Yeah. Sully.
Yes, Sully. I mean, I knew Sully. I've met Sully. I've met the guy, Patrick Harton, who's another air traffic controller.
Yeah.
He actually worked that airplane, and he works at New York TRACON, which stands for Terminal Radar Approach Control. So he runs all the airplanes in and out of LaGuardia, Newark, JFK, everything around the whole Northeast. But he was the guy that was on duty and worked the airplane that landed in the Hudson. So they became friends.
Yeah, I can only imagine because of the teamwork there needed to do that. It
Yeah.
was unfortunate how I understand the who looks into plane accidents.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of the service?
There's the NTSB, there's
NTSB.
National Transportation Safety
Yeah.
Board, and then we also have FAA, FSDO, which is Flight Standards.
Okay.
And then you also have, like, sometimes the FBI. The good thing about the FAA is it's really crazy because ever since September 11th, we've been integrated with almost every other government agency. So when the president is around, FAA handles a lot of the security. When there's a big event like the Super Bowl, FAA handles a lot of the security, and the Secret Service and FBI and any other government agency. It's also been a pleasure to work with them because you get to see different facets of the government, and also we deal with the military a lot, which is a pure honor there too. We deal with the Coast Guard, Air Force, Marines, even the Army. They're flying through our airspace all the time. We try to give them great service.
That's unreal.
So it's kind of crazy what we get to do.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot going on all at once.
Yes.
But yeah, what I was going to say is that I think it was pretty unfortunate that they tried to blame that on Sully. That, that he should have landed in an airport or something. And I guess my understanding is every time they tried to redo it in a flight simulator, like there was no other way.
Yeah.
And it was like heroic what he did.
Yeah, that's going to be the difference between manned aircraft and unmanned aircraft in the future, because I believe you still have the seat of your pants intuition as a pilot, which I am also, but Sully kind of, the good thing about him is he went on the record. The guy was an Air Force hero. He was I don't think he was a fighter ace, but I think he was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. He did gliders as a hobby, and he ended up landing that in the Hudson. And he was one of the first pilots that came out and started standing up for airliners, saying, hey, I probably, if I had a son, I wouldn't point him in the direction of this career. And
Really?
he went in front of Congress and said that. And of course, the movie was a little dramatized more than so it would have been with what actually happened. He didn't get raked over the coals as bad as Tom Hanks did.
Oh, okay. So
But-
the movie made it a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah, but still, he had some valid points about, what they used to pay pilots. Long time ago, there was a crash in Buffalo. It was a commuter airliner called a Dash 8 twin-engine turboprop. And it crashed because it ended up having ice on the wings. And turned out the co-pilot was flying for the captain in the dark, and she had done a 12-hour shift at Starbucks in Washington the night before because people were working 2-3 jobs to try and make their career happen. And Sully started putting that into context of, hey, your pilot shouldn't be making $20,000 a year trying to get time in the right seat.
Yeah.
So it kind of got more of a, there's a lot of different intricacies, I mean.
Does it,
with,
after that came out, is it seeming like pilots are getting paid more?
Yeah, there's a big demand for it.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could get back into it again. I got an offer yesterday about it, but to get me up to speed after not flying a professional airplane for a long time would take a long time. So
You'd be willing to do it, though.
I miss it.
Yeah.
But you can't just, some people maybe would be more apt to just try to hop in and go with it, but the training and the preciseness that's involved that I always put to it and stuff was a lot different than I always follow checklists, always,
Yeah. You have a cool story with the movie Sully, right? You mentioned to me there's a scene in there.
Oh, yeah.
What was that story?
Oh, it was at the Dubliner, and me and Patrick and a bunch of people were at a convention, and we were staying at the Hyatt Regency at Capitol Hill. And Captain Sullivan, sorry, Skipper's barking.
No, that's okay.
But,
Skipper's part of the rest of them that are barking in here. That's why we call it live, because
Yes.
you never know what you're going to hear. It's all good.
So
All
anybody
good.
watching, he's a cute dog.
He's
so
very cute. We'll show him at the end.
we were sitting there and we were talking about the landing in the Hudson, and I said, "Oh, it'd be great to have a drink named after you, with 2 shots of Grey Goose and a splash of water." And one of my buddies, when I was in the radar room that you got to come visit,
Yes.
heard me mention that, and he goes, "Oh, did you see the movie?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't seen it yet." And he goes, "Well, that's in there." I'm like, "What? That was in there?"
That's so cool, dude.
I thought it was nice that they took that quote.
Yeah.
And I believe Patrick and Captain Sully still stay in touch with each other a lot. I mean, I just had the chance to meet them there a couple times,
Yeah.
but they stayed in touch, and he's a very good kind of role model for aviation professionals, both of them, actually.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
we're very blessed to have people who are, that's got to be a risky profession. It's got to be incredibly taxing mentally. And to find out that they're getting underpaid, just like other, very important jobs in our country, unfortunately, are underpaid and overworked, teachers and police officers.
Yeah, we're not. I think right now we're going to be a victim of circumstance again. I mean, I was complaining downstairs about the way the economy and inflation and rents going up, and I'm like, what happened to the middle class? Because I make a decent living, and I'm thinking about getting a second job because
Yeah.
of things you got to pay after a divorce and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing; it's your responsibilities. But
Right.
you know, and the job that goes with flying and goes with air traffic or anything, and you saw it when you came to visit, which I was glad to have you because it's
Dude,
nice
that
to have
was
people that are
incredible.
and it makes us feel good. It's a morale boost when someone comes in and like really appreciates seeing it.
Yeah, I
because
was going to mention that.
you
That
know,
was an experience of a lifetime,
it's
man.
great. Well, you're welcome anytime.
Thank
but,
you.
You know, like for us, Coach K from Duke had a great saying that I use all the time. So I'm not going to quote it myself, but I mean, I'll quote it, but it's him that said it, was there's a difference between stress and pressure. If you're walking into a job and you're stressed out, it means you didn't do what you need to do
He's good.
to, you didn't do what you need to do to prepare yourself to get it done.
Interesting.
Pressure means you're going into the situation, you're going to perform.
Want to put him on your lap? I'm sure he'll love that. Hey, Skip.
He's just wondering
This
why.
is Skipper.
Hello, Skipper, to everybody.
So the
You're
difference between stress and pressure is, I think, beautifully stated. Stress is when you're not prepared.
Yeah.
Pressure is what you're prepared for, and you
And you're
handle
ready
it.
to do it.
Yeah.
Just like what we had a bunch of my friends that were getting in Reader Digest today because that pilot we were talking about.
Yeah.
We made national news in the beginning of May when a pilot became incapacitated and we talked a passenger down to land the airplane.
This is an unbelievable
It is,
story.
and
For
we
those
still-
of you who
yeah.
probably heard it in the news, or maybe you didn't, back in May, there was a small plane coming back from the Bahamas, and just two passengers and
A pilot.
And the pilot goes
Had a heart attack
incoherent.
or something. Yeah.
And then the plane immediately nosedives, 6,000 feet?
Yeah,
Spirals
yeah.
and nosedive. You showed me the radar track of this, God, I hate to say it, death spiral
Yeah.
that this plane was in. And before he reached out to air traffic control, this passenger was able to level out the plane,
Yeah, I
right?
can't believe it. Yeah.
Unbelievable. You said a turn and a nosedive like that should have ripped the wings off.
Yeah, yeah. He went over 300 knots in a Cessna Caravan, which that's not made to do that.
Yeah.
And it was nice too. I think you got to meet Bobby Morgan.
Yeah, the
when you're there,
gentleman.
the guy who talked him down.
Yeah.
So Captain Morgan, I always joke about
that's
that.
funny, yeah.
But yeah, it was a team effort. Like Bobby was at the front of the spear, and we were all trying to help him to make this pilot and passenger successful. And we're really lucky it worked out because I've been on the other end of that too. So
You have.
yeah, so I was kind of like, we all cheered in the tower when the guy landed it because I was.
I'm sure there was
Like
cheers
this.
and tears.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, I've been on the end where there's a crash and you're the last voice the guy ever talked to, and you're just tough,
Yeah.
But so to have this happen is excellent.
How much are you allowed to talk about, like, the protocol of what happened there? Are you allowed to say
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
what you guys did to help
Yeah,
him through
totally.
that?
I mean, I wouldn't take. The only thing I would never do is like one of the things they would tell us probably is make sure you go out there and I don't represent the United States government in this type of interview setting.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't told by the FAA to go do this or, this is Shane Ahern talking
Yeah.
to a friend of his. And,
Yeah. Understood,
we
which
could
we
do this.
appreciate.
Yeah. And, but most times we're all on the same page with everything. I mean, I'm not coming in here to say, oh, my job's terrible and this is what the government's doing. And no, we're pretty happy. 90% of the people that I believe are maybe 100%. A lot of those government employees that do jobs that are special,
Yeah.
they're really dedicated
Yeah.
because a lot of them could have done something else.
And it's very rewarding.
And it is rewarding. And, it's the civil service part of it is very impressive on my mind. When I walk in there, I see what everybody does every day. So it's really nice to see it. So I can talk about a lot of that stuff. I mean,
So how
we
did
have
that go?
everything.
The guy starts to nosedive. He's able to regain control of the plane,
yeah.
and then he reaches out to air traffic control, which wasn't
Yes.
you guys at first.
No, it was Fort Pierce Tower because the pilot that became incapacitated must have been listening to the radio to kind of pick up the weather at his intended destination. So the guy that took over the aircraft knew enough to press on that radio to at least talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And Fort Pierce Tower answered it and was like, we don't know where this guy is because they really only see like 5 to 10 miles out because we feed them from our radar, which you saw there.
Yep.
And they said, hey, I think we have this weird circumstance going on. There's a pilot out here, doesn't know where he is, and says his pilot's incapacitated. It's a passenger flying the airplane. So we ended up figuring out where he was, getting him radar identified on our end, which has specific rules of like where we can find a target on our radar scope.
Right.
Figured out where he was. He wanted to go towards, well, at first when he was coming towards Florida, we asked him what he could see out the window. Hey, do you see the coastline? He's like, yep. And we're like, well, go towards that.
Yeah.
Just baby steps forward. And as he progressed, he started getting more confident with the airplane, and we got more confident with being able to tell him what to do without, worrying that he was just going to plow it into the ground.
Yeah.
Or the ocean. And it worked out. He was the dude that flew that airplane, did a great job of staying calm and keeping his wits about him, and just a hero on his end too.
That was one of the things you mentioned, is how amazed you were with his level of calm. Like especially after that nosedive and pulling it back up.
Yeah.
You said he was so calm in the moment that it was like mind bending.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, because anytime you're even on a roller coaster at like SeaWorld or something, that's great, that first drop.
Right.
And times that by 10.
Yeah.
And then try to regain the seat of your pants if someone got thrown into the ceiling of the plane or anything like that. But that's wild. He pulled out of that.
And you said you had to print out a diagram of the inside of his aircraft?
Yeah.
So that you guys could familiarize yourself with his controls?
Yeah. So that was a good thinking. Forget one of our supervisors or ops managers printed that out, and we printed out a couple different copies because every cockpit's a little different.
Yeah.
And brought him in there and asked him, hey, is this switch over here? And he said, yeah, oh yeah. So we're like, oh, great. So we have a picture here.
And then did you have to tell him to like turn this dial to this, make a turn to this degree? Because I'd imagine he's coming towards the coast of Florida and doesn't just land straight in. Does he have to turn to make his correct approach to the runway?
Yeah, he did. And they kind of gave him some practice turns. And we set him up on a nice 10-mile straight in. And at first he wanted to land at Boca Airport, which is a executive airport, and it's only got like a 5,000-foot runway.
Right.
So we were like, hey, we have a long 2-mile plus runway at Palm Beach. Why don't you come here? We'll set you up. We have the best fire trucks here, everything, because the airline's flying it out of here.
Yeah.
So he did that. So at some point, at least if he couldn't follow the instruments, he could be like, hey, just turn left, stop, turn. Because we can see it on the radar scope.
Is that pretty fast, that data that comes back to you?
Yeah. We have, between our radar now, it has, back in the old days, it used to only have I think it was a 2.5-second update.
Okay.
Now we have a real-time update because we use satellite radar, something called ADSB. It stands for Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, which there's these special things all over, planted in the ground everywhere that
really
track airplanes.
Like radio frequency, maybe?
It's kind of like satellite mixed with radar.
Oh, wow.
So if there was a mountain, like out in Alaska or Colorado, you would have lost radar coverage in the old days, whereas now we can look down from the top, so we don't lose radar coverage in between mountains and glaciers or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
So
it's wild how far technology has come and how far flight has come.
Yeah.
And when did the Wright brothers have their first flight? Was that 1910?
It might have been 1908.
Yeah, and I think
Kitty
that is
Hawk.
correct. So 100 years later, we live in the skies.
Yeah.
One thing that really blew me away was when you showed me the flight patterns of how many planes are in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable. At any given time, there's thousands, tens of thousands of planes in the sky.
Oh, yeah. Back in the day, we used to have over 80, maybe 90,000 flights in the air at one time.
Oh, my God.
And 6 million to 8 million people flew a day. And, that's another thing to toot aviation's horn is, in the last 5 years or 10 years, I forget, it might be plus 5 years at least, we've only had one civilian fatality on an airliner. It's like if you drove to work every day in a car, and how many people die in car wrecks every year. If that happened in aviation, it would completely debilitate. Yeah, but it's still so safe. It's, we do things that I call out to 5 zeros, which the decimal point for success is 0.00001, which is 50. That's how safe it is. It's like you're safer on an airplane than riding in an escalator at the mall.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And that's been a statistic I've heard for years since I was a young man. You would talk about being nervous about flying, and people's response always is it's safer to fly than it is to drive in your car.
It is. The only I tell people the only thing about flying is it's the safest way to travel, especially on turbine aircraft, but it's also the most unforgiving. So to get complacent in that whole stress and pressure thing we were talking about, in my mind, you always follow checklists, you always do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Don't be complacent.
Yeah.
So.
And, that's an incredible safety statistic for airliners, but it's also my understanding that some of these smaller planes are maybe a little less, there's more opportunity for catastrophe on these small planes. And I wonder if that's just because of the lackluster approach of maybe some pilots or some amateur pilots.
I mean, maybe that's really rare. I know getting your pilot's license is not easy.
Okay.
I'm sure being a mechanic isn't either for that. You just introduce a lot more moving parts on an engine if it's piston engine opposed to a turbine.
Interesting. That's what you were saying about turbine flight.
Yeah, so most Cessnas and smaller aircraft that don't have turbines but have regular combustion piston engines on them, they stay on top of them and they're super safe, but the safety goes way, way up when you're just on a turbine aircraft.
Yeah. You mentioned a bit ago about unmanned flight.
Yeah.
I know that, our future and our near future has, autonomous vehicles and what are they? Tractor trailers. I know Elon Musk right now is building an 18-wheeler that's self-driving. I guess I haven't heard about flight. Is that something that's going to be on the horizon? Pun intended.
Yeah. Well, we already do a lot of drones, and we call them UASs, unmanned aerial systems.
Yeah.
And the big leap's going to be when they start going to cargo airplanes and to planes maybe that would carry passengers. The only thing is, I look at that and I see some of the pitfalls that could come about because there's something that they don't think about. Weather is unpredictable.
Yeah.
So what a person sees and a person knows their local area, to me, is like, it's paramount to be knowing weather patterns. Right. Hey, that's a buildup over there. Oh, I could go through that way and I think it'll be safe. I've done it 100 times in South Florida.
Right.
I don't know if a drone would necessarily react to that data the way a human would. Just like we were talking about, the way some pilots might deal with things over, unmanned piloting airplanes. So.
Yeah. That opportunity for human interjection in that, having that experience in the air is like, paramount.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're not going to get a drone that says, "Oh, I'm Captain Sullenberger and I lose my engines in my airplane, but I've been a glider pilot since I was a kid, so we're going to land it in the Hudson."
Yeah.
Like,
the drone would have tried to get it to an airport.
Yeah, maybe without feelings.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, feelings and intuition has a lot.
Something really wild about our species in general is feelings and intuition, and we're in a day and age where we're looking so much at artificial intelligence and potentially these artificial intelligence becoming sentient, but like, can you ever replace intuition? Can you ever replace human experience?
Yeah. Can a computer calm itself down?
Yeah.
Can it process a bunch of data without overheating? Right. Can it say, hey, we got a 1% chance of making this, but we're still going to go with it?
Right. Rather than calculating its opportunity for error and just scrapping it.
I don't know. I mean, of course, they're amazing. The computers that are involved with flying even the new corporate aircraft are so great with synthetic vision and all these great things. So the planes that I was showing you when you came to visit, some of the corporate jets have now synthetic vision in the cockpit. So even if you can't see out the window, you can still see like it's normal.
Really?
Yeah.
On the window or a separate screen?
It's a separate screen,
right,
but I wouldn't be surprised they start putting it on the window
like
too.
An overlay that you could see through but then turn on.
Yeah.
And that's done with sonar and radar and satellite, all these things compiled, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's that accurate.
It's unreal. Well, I'd imagine a lot of planes right now are flying themselves, right? Once you get up to flying height, altitude, they use autopilot. And I'm sure autopilot has come a long way.
Yeah, we use it a lot. Believe it or not, once you get out of probably putting the landing gear back in the airplane, you're on autopilot most of the time because it saves a lot of fuel.
Okay, yeah,
And then
interesting.
at Palm Beach, we used to, when we have auto land capability at Palm Beach, so the plane can land itself at our airport. But a lot of times we tell them if the weather's nice, try to hand fly it in because those planes were hitting the same exact spot on the runway every time instead of a little bit of human error in there to make it land in a different spot. So we were wearing out the runway. Say it was going to last 10 years. It only lasted 3.
No kidding.
Because 200,000 pounds of metal hitting it at 200 miles an hour 1,000 times a day, if you're hitting in the same spot, it's going to wear it out quicker.
1,000 times a day is so hard for me to wrap my mind around. I was in the tower with you for maybe 6 minutes, and the amount of activity was really mind-bending. I mean, it just never stops.
Yeah.
And the level of cool that the one gentleman we were watching was, displaying, he was in flip-flops and shorts and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And I guess that's not what I initially expected, but after I thought about it, it made total sense, right? Because you want to be in this relaxed state of mind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable.
It makes it better. And something you brought up that I thought was really impressive when I talked to you after we came here was you were like the amount of data that they're processing at one time.
Yeah.
Just from you to pick up on that from your first time seeing it, not a lot of people see that.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's totally right.
It's hard to fathom, man. It's
Yeah.
hard to fathom. And, I understand the importance of processes and systems as being a small business owner. But I also know that as a human, often those things go to the wayside. And there is zero room for error with what you guys are doing,
Yeah, and also, there's zero room for error, but there's such a great relationship between controllers and pilots.
Come
That
sit with us, Skip.
providing the service that we get to do and doing that job and talking like we're doing now
Yeah.
and making you happy that you got from point A to point B and, giving you weather updates and traffic updates. And I mean, it's like driving your car, but you get talked to the whole way of, hey, this is the best way to go.
Yeah, it's like OnStar. There's somebody on OnStar talking
All the
to you
time.
the whole time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And something else I'll even address is, they talk about delays. And the one thing I know about air traffic is I want to get rid of you as soon as possible because that's less workload for me.
Right.
So if we could get rid of 10 airplanes in 10 minutes, we're going to do it.
Right.
So if there's a delay or a backup, it's usually a safety or a weather or type situation that it's better to be on the ground wishing you were up there than being up in the air wishing you were on the ground.
Well said, man.
So we tell them that, and, sometimes people get upset because they got delayed, but you're really not going to get there any faster.
Yeah.
And it's all about safety and organized and expedited flow of traffic. It's nothing that, that we would say, oh, we delay people on
We're too
purpose. That
busy.
doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't go, oh, we're too busy. We can't talk to you.
Right.
Hey, we'll take your request. We just might not be able to do that for you for a half hour.
Because we have millions of people's lives in our hands.
Yeah.
Well, that's like something I try to do with myself when I get in traffic or something, if traffic slowing me down. Mentally, I tell myself this slowdown is probably preventing me from something, God forbid, catastrophic down the road, and it's
Yeah.
for some reason in flight, people don't, everybody's high stress level and they're,
Yeah.
schlepping all their bags. But it's like, if you're taking your time to make sure that everything is done correctly, it's like, you thank the Lord,
Yeah, yeah.
we appreciate it,
Yeah.
And
the good thing about airplanes and air traffic is there's never a single point of failure. So, it's if something breaks or something happens, it's got backup after backup system.
Right.
Everything's on a maintenance schedule instead of, wait till I get a flat tire before I change my tire.
Right.
The tires get changed on a schedule.
It's all preemptive.
Yeah, everything gets changed. So after a certain amount of hours, each airplane gets an overhaul, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness. And you can't imagine, hundreds of millions of people have probably flown
Oh, yeah.
commercially, if not a billion people.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't realize everything we do. I think when you were there, we were talking about a rocket launch too. Like
That's right.
We protect the airspace off Cape Canaveral and navigate all the airliners around that. So if something happened to the rocket, God forbid, you're safe there. We don't take any chances.
Yeah.
We actually scrubbed a launch because a cruise ship got in the launch debris recovery area in case something happened, you know?
Yeah.
So we're always looking out for everybody. We try. It's a good system. I mean, FAA works with NASA. They work with SpaceX. They work with anybody that wants to take our services, which,
Yeah.
like I said, it's been kind of a crazy experience for me. I was on the detail here for 4 years while we had the president here and dealt with the Secret
right.
Service on a weekly basis. So that was great, too, because it totally opened my eyes to other parts of what goes on and perspectives. That was really good.
Yeah.
Security-wise and aviation-wise, and teaching them about our job. They came in like you and saw the place and were like, whoa, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we don't know air traffic that much.
That's right.
So now we have to protect the president. And what do we do? And we got together and worked it out with them.
Dude, what an honor.
It was good. You know, it's a good thing. I mean, we have a playbook now. It was nice when the handoff happened to Delaware. Like, a lot of the new agents went up there to deal with the new president, and they took our playbook because I think we made their life easier. So
Really?
maybe the rest of the country will use what we did here.
Dude, how cool is
yeah,
that?
it was really cool.
My understanding is that when Trump was president, the flight paths were rerouted around Mar-a-Lago, right?
Yes, yeah, and we
Which
have
makes sense.
there's like a 10-mile ring and a 30-mile ring when there's a VIP in town. That's a big thing, and they do it for like the Super Bowl. They do it for specific events, and they do it for the president, where you have to make sure you're talking to air traffic, and then to go in that 10-mile ring, you need to be screened by like TSA or a security agency, or have an agent on board actually to go in there. So the airliners were allowed to fly in and out because they went and got TSA checked before
Right.
everybody got on.
Right.
So
I have a question.
go ahead.
So one of the things we're hearing about is Amazon potentially being able to deliver your packages via drone.
Yeah.
Is that actually going to be a thing? Are you going to have to add to your number of things in the air Amazon's drones flying everywhere? Is that something that's been discussed in your field?
Yeah, it has. And believe it or not, Palm Beach, again, go figure, Florida and California were the two biggest drone areas in the country right now. So we all developed these grids called a zero grid area, and it goes out from there, where we basically took a low-performing aircraft and measured it out, mileage, how fast it would climb away from our airport. So we could put a grid like a little square a mile from the airport or two and say, you can fly out or below 200 here in a drone and it won't bother anybody. And by the way, we don't want to know you're there because there's so many of you guys, like, it's too much to deal for us.
Okay.
So we put areas they can go and they can't go. And if they want to go somewhere where they can't go, they need a waiver. And that goes through us. And then we map it out and make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
Or tell them no.
Do you think one day we'll have all these drones buzzing at 200 feet?
I don't know. They seem a little loud. So,
That's a good point.
you know, I don't know if everybody's going to love them flying up and down the streets or over their houses in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, there may be an opportunity for it. But I think right now, I mean, I hope I'm not sounding like I'm not innovative, but I kind of like the way things are.
Yeah.
I like everything doesn't need to be in that much of a hurry in my mind.
Right.
Like, you got to smell the roses, enjoy people, give everybody a livelihood. I still like buying stamps from the post office, maybe because I'm old, but I think, man, I kind of want to make sure the post office is around. That's a national treasure for what it costs to buy a stamp. They don't charge you more to go to California or Georgia.
That's a great point.
You pay one price still.
Yeah. And
You
they
know?
get it there.
Yeah, and it might get late, but it
The
still
amount
gets
of
there.
mail they deal with, too.
Yeah.
The post office being a national treasure is such a good point, man.
Yeah, it is.
Such a good point.
I think our aviation system's a national treasure. I think a lot of government agencies are. I think, you know, just basically everything we do, even what's going on in D.C. now, it's still a national treasure. I just wish more people paid attention to it. Like, who doesn't know their congressman?
Right.
Or who doesn't know, you know, it's another thing that you brought up that I really thought was impressive when I first met you was when you were doing these podcasts, you're like, hey, I'm going to try to get some folks in here that I never thought I'd talk to before. I'm like,
Right.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because to learn and walk in someone else's shoe is something I don't think we do much.
Yeah, it's sad because we just stay focused on the things that we don't like. We usually create like one common enemy, you know, and we're forgetting about all of the other moving parts and all of the other humans that are working their asses off to make sure things go smoothly for the rest of us.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you said about smelling the roses and giving thanks. Like, you can complain about this country all you want, and I sometimes think that I complain about what the government is or isn't doing, but it's so important to remember that what we do in this country when it comes to commerce and when it comes to air flight, and it's actually unbelievable how many moving parts there are.
It is, and it's really efficient compared to other areas in the world, and we try to, modernize them also. But you're right, it's, you get the government you deserve. So paying attention, doing the right thing, being transparent, staying informed, and then trying to listen. That's the one thing I think, too. You find everybody wants to spout off and, oh, this sucks, or this is bad, or this is good, or I know the best way. But sometimes taking that deep breath and realizing, hey, maybe I should just listen.
Yeah. That's such a great point, man. Well, it's unfortunate because with our social media, it's allowed us to create these feedback. What's that called? It's oh goodness, the word is escaping me right now. Echo chamber.
Yeah.
Right? You just unfriend and block somebody who has a differing opinion than you, and you just get all these like reinforcing storylines, and it doesn't set anybody up to be willing to listen to the other side.
Yeah, I hate that. I always tell someone, there's another term I use is if everybody thinks alike, there's not a lot of thinking going on. And that's exactly what's happening, because God forbid someone makes you mad on Facebook, or you don't agree with their politics or their sentiment or what they say. It's yet again, your first thing is to get on there and throw it back at them instead of listen.
Right.
We're not asking why anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that got my belly going and I'm heated, but I don't know why. So I'm just going to do an impulsive thing and text back.
Right. Spout off some statistic you heard that backs up your point of view.
Yeah.
And then worst thing is start calling names. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is the worst. And you know what? Those statistics things you say, a lot of people manipulate it to the way they want to see it. And, you're not seeing empirical evidence. And people are always like, oh, I know this guy this happened to. Well, what's his name? Oh, I don't know.
Right.
But
because really what they're hearing, it was a meme that they saw. And they're like, well, they obviously won't believe me if I say it was a meme.
Yeah.
So to try to win the argument, I'll say that I know the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The emotional aspect of what they do to fire up people on Facebook. And when I hear the word algorithm and what's going on with these social media platforms where they basically set it up to follow you around and be your shadow.
Yeah.
Like they have to maybe the algorithm's worse than we thought it is, and it's enabling these bad people. Because, most people I believe are good, except Skipper.
He's a good boy. He just wants to be in on the conversation.
He's like, what are those things on your head?
So most people, I agree, are good.
Yeah.
Right? And the unfortunate thing, it's like the vocal minority, right? That's what we hear most. Play. And people can be very vocal. Not only that, there's these bot farms that you can pay somebody at a bot farm to send 100 tweets at one person.
Yeah.
Skipper, it takes a village. He's a good boy. He just wants his daddy. So off the coast here is something that we've all heard about forever, but I didn't realize until maybe a few years ago that we're very close to the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes, we are.
And I imagine
we're in it.
Right?
Yeah. Fort Lauderdale's in it. If you look at the Bermuda Triangle, there's a few good books on it, too. One of my friends, Sharky, gave me a book. I forget the title of it, but it was all about a lot of the happenings out there. But, one of the first ones that was on record was a training flight for World War II back in probably 1941 or somewhere around, maybe right prior to the war, where a squadron of planes ended up disappearing out there. So you'd have to
multiple planes.
Yeah, it was a whole squadron of fighter trainees. And they disappeared. And it's funny, in the movie, what was it, Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Okay.
You notice some of the guys walking off of the spaceship at the end of the movie had those fighter jackets on.
Right.
And they were insinuating like those guys got picked up by a UFO instead of.
Do you think that's a crazy thought?
I don't. It's funny. They had a story one time I read about Ronald Reagan sitting next to Steven Spielberg and they were watching that movie together.
Yeah.
And Ronald Reagan turned to him and said, "Boy, if you only knew how close you got this."
Right.
You know, and we've had UFO reports, so we get them. I've been in the agency for 25 years, and I've heard of a couple good ones. So Dominican Republic's one. There's a couple out here that have happened. There's old news stories in the 1950s where the Palm Beach Air Traffic Controller manager actually talked about one that they saw on radar and got reports. And yeah, the Bermuda Triangle might be a thing.
I have a theory that, a lot of people talk about aliens visiting Earth. Have they visited? Are they visiting? I have a theory that maybe they're not visiting. Maybe they've been here for millions of years and they live under the water.
Yeah.
There's the story of Commander David Fravor off the coast of San Diego and the Nimitz aircraft carrier. And most people know it as the Tic Tac video.
Yeah.
Have you heard this story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he sees this. He gets scrambled. We've been seeing these things. They tell him, go check it out. We want you to see it, what it is. When he pulls up on this thing, he says it's 25, 30 feet long, maybe longer. And it's just a couple feet above the water, and below it is something under the surface. That kind of water is creating this white water, and it seems like it was communicating with it. And then he kind of pursues this thing. It disappears. It goes to 60,000 feet to 1 foot above sea level in an instant, all caught on radar. But what I thought was interesting is that there was something under the water communicating with it.
Yeah.
So who knows? And maybe, the Bermuda Triangle is a home base for them.
Well, there's always, again, I'm kind of one of those people that's spiritual in nature a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think there's parts of the planet that have always been historically, spiritual or kind of blend in with the universe maybe easier.
Yeah.
So maybe those areas that we're kind of seeing weird things like Mayan ruins and,
Right.
Egyptian triangles or
Yeah, the pyramids.
Yeah. So, even the pictures on a dollar bill that we can't explain some of the stuff that they put on there. The Freemasons.
The Freemason and the pyramid.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, right?
Yeah, and it totally is. But it's very, I think there's definitely maybe an influence from somewhere that we don't know about. And,
Yeah.
Even the Department of Defense had hearings, a couple weeks ago about UFOs and all the footage that's been released. But,
Yeah.
That's for them to release. I mean, we've only seen a few instances. I'm sure they have cases that they're still researching.
Yeah.
But,
sometimes it's a little bit questionable, the amount of information they're releasing, out of nowhere. They're just like, oh, yeah, we think there's UFOs. Could it potentially be a cover-up for the fact that we have a new technology that we want to say is aliens, so other governments don't know we have these hypersonic drones that are moving in ways that humans never thought possible?
Well, just imagine we basically, the way those drones that you were talking about, or UFO that you said went to 1,000 feet to 60,000 and then a foot off, just the G-forces involved with that would kill an average human. So maybe they figured out a way to deal with the gravity problem.
Yeah.
Or, a type of engine propulsion problem.
Yeah, there's a gentleman who claims that he worked at Area S1, S4. I can never remember his name when I need to.
There's a few of them. There's Area 51, and there's Groom Lake, and they call it Tonopah also.
Okay.
And you know what? Just to go off on a tangent real quick.
Yeah, I love it.
Top Gun 2 paid a homage to the Skunk Works out there.
Skunk Works.
So if you look at the tail of the airplane, I don't want to be spoiler or anybody, but there's a tail of an airplane that Tom Cruise flies in the movie, and it has a skunk on the tail.
Yeah.
And that's the Skunk Works picture. They use that for basically the old stealth fighter and all that stuff.
Skunk Works is part of what's the larger company, or
it's probably Lockheed
Martin,
but they
Skunk
also
Works is their black budget stuff, right?
Yeah, all top secret stuff or ultra whatever.
Don't they do that right west of here? Isn't there a Lockheed Martin?
Yeah, there is.
Right?
Yeah.
Not to say that's where Skunk Works is, but I know that they've got to be working on something.
Well, it's believe it or not, that's a prohibited area.
I'd only imagine.
So you weren't even able to fly over it.
Yeah.
And they just made it a regular restricted area now, but it used to be prohibited. The White House, do not fly over this.
Yeah.
But that's on any map anyway. So
Right.
pilots were always worried about flying over it. But yet again, that's who we get to work with. They have air traffic controllers in their tower, and we talk to them every day and
It's so cool,
try to
dude.
help them out. And that's one of the weird things about the FAA. So
Yeah, you get to
you
work
get
with
to
the
know-
military.
you get to do everything.
Yeah. You don't have to say them. Do you have any secrets that you're sworn to not tell us?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Most stuff, believe it or not, is like, it's so common sense that if you had a huge advantage over anything else going on out there, you probably wouldn't tell anybody or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't have any I shouldn't talk about this. A lot of it's probably rooted in legal logic.
Yeah.
A lot of it you can fill in the gaps and guess,
Right.
like how security would be if the president was here, or how security is anyway.
Right.
But a lot of it's out there already. So if you look at just 13 miles east of us, there's a thing on any aviation map. It's called the Air Defense Identification Zone. We have that around the sea of our whole country. And we deal with NORAD and all those other great agencies, which is the Air Force, that's North American Defense. And if we tracked a target that was coming at us, they're not going to miss it. I mean,
Right.
we get that all the time.
And it's not gonna make it to us.
I hope not.
Right.
They scramble fighter jets or
Yeah.
whatever they need to do, and they're there to help. Actually, I mean, the fighter jets even helped out with that guy in that Cessna that we were talking about. They were
Yeah.
up there making sure he was okay from way up in the sky.
Yeah. That's
So,
amazing because
yeah.
he could have been, God forbid, lying.
Yeah,
Right. He could have taken control of the plane or something like that.
Yeah.
So immediately you have to get the Air Force involved.
yeah.
Holy shit.
So the response times for that have been amazing since September 11th. So that's another. We have direct lines to them.
Right.
There was a news story probably a few years ago where a guy crashed a commuter airplane out in Washington State on purpose. It was a mechanic that was flying his own flight simulators and figured out how to start up an airplane and take it. He committed suicide, but he took the plane into a side of a mountain, and their fighters were right on him.
Right.
And they're just making sure he didn't go into a populated area, or else they probably would have to take him out.
If you had to make an educated guess as a civilian, on 9/11, there was the one flight that seemed to go down in a field.
Mm-hmm.
Some people speculate that potentially could have been shot out of the sky.
Yeah. They made the movie United 93,
Okay.
and I'm not going to say it's not possible,
Right.
but and regardless, all those people on all those planes were heroes, because I couldn't imagine having to try to deal with what they dealt with.
Yeah. Well
All the
said.
controllers that did it that day were too. I mean, there was a controller in Boston. I'm just going to go off a little bit on it because I remember that day very clearly.
Yeah.
He dropped his wife off at Boston Logan Airport, and he was an air traffic controller, and went to work at Boston Center. And American 11 was the first plane that hit the first tower, and she was on it, and she was going to San Francisco. So he lost his wife that day. And then, of course, a lot of other people did too. And it's just, bless them all.
Yeah.
But, United 93, those passengers stood up. I remember the day when that started really getting into the thick of things. Like, they were putting out guidance to every flight crew in the whole country to take the drink carts and just barricade the cockpit
Yeah.
and line all the flight attendants up and stuff, because we didn't think there was just 4. We thought there was, like, more than that.
Yeah.
It's completely, this is just theoretical, but I mean, if a fighter jet was behind you and just put a few bullets in each engine,
Right.
it'd probably go down. But I don't think the flight path of that plane, I think the terrorists that were on board knew that their
time was
their
numbered.
time was up.
Yeah.
And they threw the airplane the nose over to throw everybody into the ceiling because they had their seatbelts on. And it was probably too much for the airplane to handle, and they ended up crashing.
Oh, it's
But thank
so
God, because that
tragic.
one was going to probably hit the Capitol or the White House, so that would have made the day even worse. Because if they hit the Pentagon, I don't know why they would go for that first, but
Right.
um,
Lots of
Oh, well.
theories about that Pentagon thing.
yeah. So
It
that
was-
was American 77. I
It
have all
was.
memorized. So
Okay.
yeah, there's 93. There's 173, and then there's American 11.
What a just terribly sad time from our history.
You know, a little good thing is, though, Muhammad Atta and all those guys that, the only reason we found out it was them so quick, go figure, the airline lost their bag. So they ended up, the FBI, when they did the investigation, found their bags still in New Hampshire because they had flown regionally to Boston before they got on their planes.
No kidding.
Yeah, and the flight school they flew out of, go figure, was in Lantana.
Right, that's what I thought.
So Palm Beach, again, was working all those guys.
Yeah.
I guess they went to Tees Lounge a lot from what I heard.
Wow. Well, I think I'd imagine it's much harder now to get a pilot's license than maybe it was then. I don't know
you get a
the
better
details.
background check, and
Yeah.
if you're foreign, you're going to get checked out a lot. And,
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't go into a flight simulator and say, I don't want to learn how to land. So those guys that were learning how to do this, that's basically what they did. That's
Really?
how dumb it was, yeah.
Oh,
But I think they were probably on a watch list that just got missed. I mean,
Right.
it's tough. You can't kidnap people, you can't. If people still live their lives, the government gives them benefits of the doubt.
right. You can say there's, potential for this, but
Yeah.
how much are you going to do? There's this movie, Minority Report,
Oh, I love that movie.
where they talk about PreCrime.
Yeah.
But that's a dark area, man.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
start arresting people because of thoughts that they have, but I think they're putting stuff like that together with social media. Like,
Yeah.
do people have these certain behavior patterns that we've seen in the past,
Yeah.
to lead towards a catastrophic outcome, and hopefully it can save some lives.
I hope so. I mean, it's crazy. I don't understand why people hate, because, it's something that I saw on the news lately. I've been to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho before. I went there for work when I was on a team that traveled around the country a little bit. And I remember seeing signs on the road that said Aryan Nation. I'm like, what's that? And that was up there. And then they had arrested all these guys last weekend
Oh, I heard about that.
trying to go cause a riot at a not concert, parade maybe.
Right.
Like, dude, you're better staying home if you don't like somebody. Don't go
So true.
invade their space.
It's so true.
You're not fixing the country by doing that. Like,
It's such a primal instinct,
Yeah.
this tribal instinct, like we are we and they are they,
Yeah.
and like the dominance, the pushing of dominance, and it happens in so many different factions of life, and it just seems like can't we all just, it's like so cliche, can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
We can. If you go to any watering hole anywhere in this country, you see people from all walks of life, all political backgrounds, and everybody's buddies. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
well, I have to say, this is my first kava bar I've ever come to, and now I'm here a lot.
Yeah, well, we love
I love it because what you just said is what it's like when you walk into a place where everybody, you have any walk of life, but no one invades your space. Everybody adds value to your opinion.
Right.
They actually listen to you. They care about you. I mean, it's a special spot here because I haven't been to another one yet. I'm going to go to your friends.
We're going to take you to
Yeah.
Tanaga.
But it's impressive. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes you do go to a bar and you get a loudmouth going there, and
That's right.
they're like, oh, they just go on and on and on. Like I
Well,
said, they're in that echo chamber,
Alcohol is like,
Yeah.
it brings the worst out of us. you
Yeah,
know?
it does. It does.
So it feels good for the first hour or two.
Yeah, and
And
then
then it always seems to end in sorrow, dismay, anger,
Yeah.
frustration.
You think
know?
you're smarter than you are. You
Right.
think you're better looking than you are.
Yeah.
And
You got me pegged.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. But I'm just like, yeah, you're right. That's another thing that's nice about coming to a kava place like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's relaxed and you don't go home hungover or
Yeah.
anything,
There's just so many
So-
positives, and I'm so glad that you walk through the doors and that you're getting the positive impact
love
of
it.
the space and the beverages. Kratom tea completely changed my life.
Yeah.
I was not addicted to alcohol, but addicted to socializing.
Yeah.
I could never, after 9 p.m., I can't just sit home.
Yeah.
I want to go to the bar,
Yeah.
because there's people there and there's music playing.
Yeah.
And then I'd have some drinks, some shots, and next thing you know, it's 10 in the morning. I've gone to 3 or 4 different after parties, and I have work that day,
Yeah, and then the after effects of that, you have anxiety, depression, all this other stuff because alcohol just sends you down the tubes.
Yeah.
So
I never had any intention of stopping drinking. I still drink celebratory.
Yeah.
We go to a concert or we go out to dinner or something. But now I just drink my Kratom. I feel fantastic.
yeah, it's cool. It's nice.
Yeah. So I know there's people who are watching who are going to want to hear from an air traffic controller of whether or not the Earth is flat.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So there seems to be a large amount of videos on the internet.
Yeah.
And a larger than I would ever imagine portion of our population that now believes that we've been lied to. I mean, we have been lied to about a lot of other stuff, so I get it. That the Earth is flat. And one of the things they point to is flight patterns. Something about, I don't know enough about it because I never dug into it. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, there's a few thoughts. Seeing that we have time zones and everything's based about on Greenwich Mean Time, which is in London, that automatically already we know we're rotating as a sphere around the sun at about 66,000 miles an hour. So the Earth isn't rotating that fast. It's probably doing, 11 or 1,200. But, the law of relativity from Einstein shows that, if you're on an object that's moving and something's next to you doing the same speed, it's going to look like it's not moving. That's relativity. So if you want to talk flight patterns too, we have a thing with long-range navigation. Short range, it looks like you can go in a straight line from here to Pahokee or somewhere like Naples or something.
Right.
But if you're going from here to London or here to like Singapore or something like that, you have to plan your flight route for the curvature of the Earth. That's why when you look at the magazines and stuff, you see when they do a picture of the Earth that looks flat in a magazine.
Yeah.
The routes are all curved.
I've always seen that, yeah.
Because you can't have two straight lines. It just doesn't work that way because the Earth is round.
Right.
And the other proof is the flight out of Newark to Singapore goes over the North Pole into Singapore, saves itself a lot of hours of flying time to do that. You couldn't do that if the Earth was flat.
It does fly over the North Pole.
Yes.
I think some people think that we never fly over, or maybe it's Antarctica.
We do that. We could do that too, but there's really no reason to go over Antarctica.
It'd be too far to go that way to get where you're trying to go.
Maybe, and I don't think there's as many populated areas down there like in South Africa, southern South America. Australia is still far enough north that, so, the pointy tippy end of Santiago, Chile or whatever, way down south of that.
Right.
There's not like a huge airport reason to cut the corner of that.
You just go east.
Yeah.
So the Earth is round.
The Earth is round.
You're
NASA
sure
proved
of it.
it. Yeah, I've actually seen like satellite photos and, it's round.
So it's so weird because people, even just from saying there's photos from space, they think that's Photoshop.
Well, we wouldn't have gravity if the Earth didn't have the mass it has.
Right.
Just like any other planet, you can calculate what your weight's going to be on the moon. You're going to be 1/3 or 2/3 lighter than you are now on the moon.
Because of the mass
Gravity.
of the planet.
Yeah, so you can prove it that way too. Otherwise, the theory I joke about is the Earth would be like a pizza, and Antarctica is like the crust, and that keeps all the oceans on the planet without draining off because it's flat.
That's what they think. I think they call it a firmament or something.
Yeah, and the only reason we have gravity is because the Earth is moving away from the center of the universe and increasing in speed, so you're stuck on gravity. But all you got to do is push your nose over in an airplane, just like a parabola, and a satellite. Once you get out of gravity, you get zero weight. That also proves the Earth's round.
Right.
So
I don't understand. What do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it might have been that echo chamber thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of, I don't know. There's people aren't open to science and reality and what it takes to do some things. And, like I said, I'm spiritual, but I also do believe in technology.
Right.
We couldn't do the things we do medically today without standing on the shoulders of others, and aviation's the same way. And, these scientists that even predicted flight, like to say, the space shuttle was fake or the moon landing was fake. I mean, we saw those rockets get launched.
Yeah.
We've been here and seen it.
Right.
To not listen and research it and think that that's going to be, their opinion's fine, but it's provable through a scientific method that we can repeat that over and over again.
Yes, that the Earth is round.
Yeah.
I think, YouTube has been doing this thing where it's pulling down what they call dangerous misinformation, right? They pull down all these different videos, but they leave the flat earthers alone.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's because it's not dangerous misinformation.
It is kind of funny.
It is funny. It's
But-
fun to watch, or like hear these conversations. But I can't help but think that, maybe there's I sound a little kooky when I start talking about the proverbial they,
Yeah.
because who is the they?
Yeah.
But maybe there's something too about wanting to get people to question the fabric of existence.
Yeah.
You start to like question what's real, what's not. If you're thinking the earth is flat, everything else is a lie, it starts to like break apart society when people
I agree.
think that everything's, not as it seems.
I mean, I read a thing. It's kind of rooted in Buddhism a little bit, which has also got a lot of value to add to society about staying calm, or learning about life, or what happens during death, or does the body leave the mind, or the mind leave the body, or they can exist forever.
Right.
But they talked about death and some of the great unknowns there, and to go into some of these things. They basically come back around and say there's no reason to fear it because it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can do about it, so why be scared of it?
Yeah.
But everybody is scared of it, and well, at least most people are.
Right.
But some people that end up taking their own lives, God bless their soul. Hopefully they got help. But so I don't want to say everybody's not scared of it, but
Right.
yes, I think the flat earthers are an interesting group. There's a lot of those conspiracy theories going on right now that have definite evidence and actual fact that what these people in the conspiracies are talking about is not true.
Right.
So
He's all right, dude.
so funny.
He's all right.
He's so cute. I love that I get bossed around by my dog.
It's better than a woman.
Yeah, I guess so.
No offense, ladies.
Yeah.
I think that the other side of it is that throughout history, we've seen these things that were labeled as conspiracy theories to come out to actually be factual,
Yeah.
Whether it's like false flag, like the Gulf of Tonkin, that thing,
Yeah.
that false flag attack that got us into Vietnam, or
Yeah.
the Bay of Pigs, or something along those lines, where we were going to arm Cuban nationalists, and we were
Yeah.
going to fake a airliner crash or take over, the JFK thing. The fact that 60 some years later they still won't release the information they know about JFK
Yeah.
makes you kind of question what the hell went on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I do think about the government is they don't necessarily have the information release business set up. Like, I know if I got asked through Freedom of Information Act to do something, there's not like an office that someone can just do that all day. They like take away from other duties that you're trying to get done, and
Right.
It's kind of, whether it's JFK or not, I'm probably sure there is a truth out there that someone knows, or maybe it is already is what it is, but they don't proactively go, oh, let's just release everything just because that's not your job.
Right.
We're here to make sure the country keeps going.
Right. And that everybody's safe.
Yeah.
And, our way of life is protected,
Yeah. Yeah. And, we learned a lot of lessons. I mean, being president's probably a pretty dangerous job considering, what are we on, 48 now? And
Yeah.
how many have
47?
been? Yeah, I think it's 48.
48?
Yeah. So hopefully, whatever, someone will correct us on the.
Yeah. I
But,
can't remember because Trump, I thought he said he was 46.
Yeah, maybe he was.
I think that, but I don't, yeah. I'm
Yeah, I
ignorant
forget.
too.
So I think they learned a lot from like even the Kennedy assassination, how to protect the president more,
Yeah.
and it probably is like living in a fishbowl, but.
It's probably got to be the hardest. I mean, aside from being an air traffic controller, which has got to be mind numbing. One of the
If I
hardest
was-
jobs on the planet.
If I was at the White House, I would make sure we'd have a big Christmas every year. And
Yeah.
we'd stay there.
Yeah.
I'm not traveling every weekend.
Right.
But yeah, it is hard. It's hard, but it's very rewarding. Like I said, that stress and pressure thing. If you go into the job and you keep training yourself and get better at it every day,
Yeah.
you're going to be happy in it.
I'm going to take that with me, the difference between stress and pressure.
Yeah.
That's really impactful.
Oh, sorry. I gave
good.
great advice that I don't take myself, so I'm glad you're going to take that with you.
You and me both, dude. You and me both. Well, I can't thank you enough for sitting down and
Yeah.
talking with me today, dude. This has been fantastic. I'm gonna harass you to come back to the tower. I'd
Yeah.
really like to bring
Anytime.
Danielle. I think
Yeah,
she would get
yeah.
a kick
Let me
out
know
of it.
whenever. Just let me know.
Awesome. And do me a favor. if you come across any UFO information,
Okay.
let's set up another conversation.
Okay.
We'll only share it with the 100 people who watch this.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get 200 out of it.
Yes, sir.
So
Shane, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Do you have sometimes people like to share their Instagram if people want to keep up with your happenings, or should they just find you here when you're around?
Yeah. I don't even remember what my Instagram or
No
anything
doubt.
is, but yeah, you can see Shane. I'd mentioned my name on here, so they'll find it if they want. And,
Cool.
yeah, and plus I'm here a lot. So.
Yes, sir. Shane,
Thank
thank
you.
you for the time
Thank
that you
you,
put
sir.
into what you do and keeping us all safe while we fly. It's highly commendable, and thanks for sharing your awesome stories.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I love coming here. So
Appreciate
thank
you again, brother. You guys, thanks for being a fly on the wall during this conversation. If you like what you heard, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time live from Hakuna. Later.
Hakuna with Skipper barking.